Everybody said this blind Mustang was done for. Too broken, too dangerous, straight up hopeless. But then this cowboy walks in, takes one look at him, and goes, "Y'all are dead wrong. What happened next?" Man, it's the wildest comeback story you'll hear all year. The wind cut across the open plains like a blade, carrying dust, silence, and a single lonely figure. A wild Mustang who once belonged to a powerful herd but now wandered alone, half blind and trembling. One eye had gone completely dark months ago, the other fading day by day, leaving him trapped between shadows and fear. The herd had left him behind when he could no longer keep up. In the wild, weakness was a death sentence, and he was too slow, too unsure, too vulnerable. So they ran on without him, and he stayed behind to face the world blind. He moved carefully, testing the ground with each step. The rustling of bushes made him flinch. The snap of a twig made him whirl in circles, trying to see what wasn't visible to him anymore. Every sound felt like danger, wolves, cougars, even the wind. He lived in a world where he could hear everything but see almost nothing. Trapped in a darkness that grew thicker with each passing sunrise, predators watched him easily. A lone blind Mustang limping near the canyon edge was no challenge. More than once, he had outrun danger by pure instinct, crashing through brush, scraping his skin on rocks, stumbling, falling, and scrambling up again. The land was no kinder, steep ravines, broken fences, and harsh, uneven trails. Every place he went became a maze. Every step felt like stepping into the unknown. When ranchers spotted him for the first time, they tried to approach gently, hoping to guide him toward safety. But the moment he heard boots crunching gravel, he bolted, slamming into an old fence post and nearly breaking it. One rancher shook his head and muttered, "He's too far gone." Another sighed, "Blind horses don't stand a chance. He's too damaged to be saved." Rescue teams came out too, but all they saw was a panicked, unpredictable horse who didn't understand where he was or who was near him. Their final decision was the same: he's dangerous, better to leave him. And so the Mustang wandered deeper into isolation. People in the nearby town started calling him Ghost. The name spread because he moved like a spirit, soundless, fearful, appearing and disappearing at the edge of pastures before anyone got close. He blended into dusk, pale-coated, thin, ribs showing, head always tilted as if listening to things no one else could hear. Children whispered stories about him. Adults shook their heads. He'll never be tamed. He's wild and blind. What can you do with that? He won't survive winter. But Ghost kept moving, not because he wanted to, but because stopping meant giving up. He drank from streams he couldn't see. He grazed on patches of grass he found by sun alone. And every night, when darkness wrapped around him completely, he stood very still, listening to the world breathe, insects humming, coyotes calling, trees swaying, sounds that filled the world he no longer saw. Sometimes he wandered near farms and bumped into wire fences, cutting his legs. Other times he stumbled into thorny brush, panicking so badly he tore out tufts of his own mane while trying to escape. The loneliness was its own kind of predator. Ghost didn't understand why the world felt so big, so empty, so unfamiliar. He only knew that he was alone, and that no one believed he could be anything more than a broken shadow of the horse he once was. And slowly, the land, the people, and even the wild itself accepted one truth. This Mustang had already been abandoned by life. No one expected him to fight back. No one expected him to survive. No one expected him to ever trust another living soul again. The world had already given up on him. But Ghost's story was far from over. The morning sun hung low over the rescue facility as a tall, rugged cowboy stepped out of his old pickup. His hat was weathered from years in the sun, his boots scuffed from long trails, and his eyes carried the calm patience of someone who had known both hardship and healing. He wasn't the kind of man who talked much. He let silence speak for him. But when it came to broken horses, He understood them better than most people understood each other. He walked through the facility slowly, nodding to the staff as they guided him toward the newest rescues. Horses whinnied, some curious, some nervous. But in the far corner of a fenced enclosure, away from the others, the cowboy saw a pale shape pressed against the wall, trembling like a leaf caught in the wind. Ghost! The blind Mustang stood rigid, head slightly turned as if listening instead of looking. He could sense footsteps approaching soft, measured, unfamiliar, and his muscles tightened. That one, a ranch hand said quickly, almost warningly. Stay away from him. Another caretaker chimed in, arms crossed. He's untrainable. We've tried everything. He panics at every sound. A third added, he's dangerous. He'll never trust anyone. The cowboy listened quietly as they spoke, but his gaze never left Ghost. He didn't see a dangerous horse. He saw fear raw, consuming fear, but underneath it, he saw something else. A flicker, a stubborn will, a spark that refused to die. Let me take a look at him, the cowboy said simply. The ranch hands exchanged uneasy glances. It's your funeral, one muttered. Another shrug, just. Don't say we didn't warn you. But the cowboy wasn't afraid. He understood that horses who looked the wildest were often the ones who had been hurt the most. As he walked toward Ghost, a memory flickered in his mind, a memory he hadn't revisited in years. There was a time long ago when he too had fallen into darkness. He remembered the accident, a young colt kicking out in panic, a sharp blow to his head, and then nothing but blackness. For days he had been blind, unable to see sunlight, hands, or faces. Every sound had felt like a threat. Every step had felt like stepping into emptiness. He remembered the helplessness, the fear, the way his heart raced at noises he couldn't identify. And yet, he had gotten through it. He learned to breathe. He learned to trust the people guiding him. His sight eventually returned slowly, painfully, but it returned. That experience had marked him forever. So when he looked at Ghost now, he didn't see a lost cause. He saw a horse living in the same darkness he had once faced. The cowboy stopped just outside Ghost's space, far enough not to startle him, but close enough for the Mustang to sense him. He didn't move. He didn't touch the gate. He just stood there, breathing slow and steady. Ghost's ears flicked forward, then backward, then forward again. The cowboy spoke not loudly, but in a gentle, gravelly tone. Easy, boy. I ain't here to hurt you. The Mustang didn't know the words, but he recognized something in the voice, a calmness that didn't demand anything from him, something different from the rough, hurried voices he'd heard before. The cowboy remained still, letting Ghost adjust to his presence. Minutes passed. Dust drifted. The world outside the enclosure carried on. But inside, something delicate was happening. Ghost didn't run. For the first time in a long time, he didn't back into the wall or bolt blindly toward the fence. Instead, he stood trembling, but standing, listening, breathing the same air as the stranger who somehow didn't scare him as much as the others. It was the first fragile thread of trust, a small moment almost invisible. But to the cowboy, it was a sign that this Mustang hadn't given up. And neither would he. The next morning, before the rescue staff even finished their coffee, the cowboy was already there. Same hat, same calm walk, same steady heartbeat. He didn't rush, didn't push. He just showed up, leaning on the fence as the sun stretched across the sky. And as the days rolled by, he kept coming every single morning like clockwork. Morning, partner, he drawled softly, his voice low and warm. The kind of voice that settled the dust instead of stirring it. Ghost would tilt his head, ears twitching, trying to place the familiar sound. The cowboy didn't expect anything from him, not a step, not a nod, not even trust. He just talked, letting the Mustang learn the rhythm and tone of his voice. He walked with soft, deliberate footsteps so Ghost could hear him before he got close. the gentle creak of his leather saddle, the faint jingle of his spurs. The soft breaths he let out all became signals that said, "It's me. You're safe." Every day, he set Ghost's feed bucket in the exact same spot. "Right here, buddy," he murmured. "Ain't moving it. You can count on that." Ghost learned to find it without bumping into the gate or stumbling over the dirt. Routine became comfort, and comfort became confidence. Then one morning, something changed. Ghost didn't wait in the corner. He didn't shrink into the shadows. Instead, he took one cautious step forward, then another. His ears were locked onto the cowboy's quiet voice like a compass finding north. "Well, I'll be darned," one of the ranch hands muttered, watching from a distance. "He's actually going to him." Ghost stopped just a few feet away, nostrils flaring, searching for the cowboy's exact position. The cowboy didn't reach out, didn't force a thing. He simply stood there, breathing slow and even. "You're doing real good," he whispered. Slowly, ever so slowly, he raised his hand. When Ghost felt the air shift, he flinched, hard muscles tightening. Hoofs scraping the dirt, but he didn't bolt. He stayed. And the cowboy waited, holding his hand in the same spot, letting the Mustang feel the intention before the touch. Finally, Ghost's trembling eased. The cowboy's fingers brushed lightly against his neck. A soft touch. A respectful touch. A touch that asked, not demanded. Ghost let out a shaky breath, and the cowboy smiled beneath his hat brim. "There you go, big guy." From that day forward, the real work began. The cowboy introduced simple sound cues, each one meant to guide rather than command. A sharp whistle meant stop. A gentle click of the tongue meant walk on. And a low, steady hum almost like a lullaby meant easy now, calm down. Ghost learned fast. He might have been blind, but he wasn't broken. He started responding to the sounds like they were his new eyesight, using them to navigate the world without fear. When the cowboy introduced a rope, he didn't snap it or tug it. He let it rest loose and easy, a connection instead of a leash. Ghost followed the feel of the line, trusting the cowboy's presence at the other end. He turned when the cowboy stepped, paused when he paused, and walked when he heard the soft click. The transformation was slow, but it was real. The terrified Mustang who once ran from every rustle began walking with his head lower, breath steadier, steps more sure. He moved not by sight, but by trust in a single voice. A single heartbeat, a single man who showed up when everyone else walked away. Day after day, step by step, Ghost stopped being a creature hiding in darkness and started becoming a partner learning to live again. All because someone finally spoke his language. The mornings at the rescue center started to look different. Where Ghost once stood frozen in fear, he now lifted his head the second he heard the cowboy's boots crunch on the gravel. The cowboy always approached the same way, slow, steady, no surprises. And Ghost, ears pricked forward, tuned into the rhythm of those steps like they were his lifeline. "All right, big guy," the cowboy murmured one cool morning, opening the gate with a soft metallic click. "Let's try something new today." He led Ghost into a small training pen dotted with simple obstacle poles on the ground. Cones, a narrow passage built with hay bales. Nothing dangerous, nothing sharp. Just challenges meant to build confidence. Ghost's head bobbed anxiously as he tried to understand the new space. But the cowboy tapped his boot gently, a signal Ghost recognized. "Right here, buddy. Follow me." And he did. Step by step, Ghost moved toward the sound. The cowboy's footsteps became his map. When the cowboy stepped left, Ghost turned left. When he slowed, Ghost slowed. And when they reached the first obstacle, low pull on the ground, the cowboy gave a soft hum. Ghost paused, listening. Then, trusting the sound, he lifted his hoof and stepped over it. "Attaboy," the cowboy whispered, voice proud but gentle. By the time they finished the course, Ghost walked beside him like he had done it for years, relaxed, muscles loose, tail swishing calmly. When they exited the pen, a group of rescue staff stood watching with jaws nearly touching the dirt. No freaking way, one muttered. That blind horse just walked an obstacle course, and he stuck to the cowboy like glue. The cowboy didn't brag. He just gave a small grin and tipped his hat. Told y'all he had fight left in him, but he knew they weren't done yet. A few days later, the cowboy brought a saddle not to force anything, but to introduce it slowly. He let Ghost sniff it first, then he rubbed the leather softly along. Ghost's shoulders so though. Sound and feel weren't strangers. This ain't gonna hurt you, partner, he whispered. Just something new. Bit by bit, Ghost accepted it. When the saddle settled on his back, he tensed but didn't panic. He breathed through it, trusting the cowboy's steady presence. Then came the first ride attempt. The cowboy swung his leg over slowly, but the second he sat down, Ghost froze, then exploded into movement, fear taking over. The cowboy tried to calm him, but Ghost bucked, confused and terrified. The cowboy hit the dirt hard. The staff gasped. Someone yelled, "You okay?" He dusted himself off, wincing, but laughing softly. "Yeah, I'm good." It ain't his fault. He didn't yell at Ghost, didn't punish him. He just tried again the next day. This time, he didn't climb on right away. He sat on the top rail of the pen, just talking while Ghost stood saddled, breathing in the cowboy's scent and voice. After 10 minutes, Ghost's breathing steadied, slow, deep, trusting. Only then did the cowboy slip back into the saddle quiet as a whisper. Ghost twitched but didn't bolt. The cowboy hummed low. Ghost exhaled and stepped forward. They moved in small circles at first, slow and controlled. The cowboy guided with his voice, not his reins. Ghost responded with careful, deliberate steps, learning the feel of a rider through sound and trust alone. Then it happened. Ghost lifted into a trot, smooth, steady, and afraid. The staff watching fell silent. The cowboy felt the rhythm beneath him, a mix of strength and vulnerability. Ghost, the blind Mustang who once stumbled in fear, was moving confidently, guided only by a man who refused to give up. Word spread fast about the cowboy who could see with his heart, and the Mustang who didn't need eyes to follow him. Together, they became something unforgettable, a bond stronger than fear, stronger than sight, stronger than anything the world believed possible. It didn't take long before the cowboy made up his mind. Paperwork, signatures, a firm handshake, and Ghost was no longer just another rescue case. He was adopted, officially and forever, by the man who refused to treat him like a lost cause. "Welcome home, partner," the cowboy murmured as he loaded Ghost into the trailer, not rushing him, guiding him only with soft clicks and gentle words. Ghost stepped up without fear. He trusted that voice now, trusted it more than the ground beneath his hooves. Their new home wasn't some fancy ranch or show place. It was open land, acres of rolling hills, soft grass, and safe trails, where a blind Mustang could breathe, without fences crowding his world. When Ghost stepped out of the trailer, the wind brushed his mane, and he lifted his head high, listening to this new place. "Plenty of room for you here," the cowboy said, patting his neck lightly. "Ain't nobody gonna push you around." The days that followed became a gentle kind of rehabilitation. Ghost learned the sounds of the land, the rustle of tall grass, the soft flow of the stream, the creak of the wooden fence. He learned the cowboy's footsteps on different terrain, gravel, dirt, grass. Each had its own rhythm, its own meaning.